You can do lead generation within the Facebook app that doesn't touch a pixel. And when you combine all these elements, there's 5 or 6 other methods for Facebook. You don't need pixel tracking. And when you don't need pixel tracking, iOS 14 isn't an issue. So you're getting accurate data. You're able to stabilize that with high conversions. And like I said, push that into an email campaign, and then you can do all kinds of segmentations and analysis on the type of people we've got, and you can sell to them far easier than I think you can right now on Facebook.
Our ads aren't written by like ridiculously good copywriters. We have good copywriters in-house, but they're designed to make sure only quality clicks go through. So our CTRs are actually pretty low most of the time.
It's where I would do a soft launch. It's where I'd go to prove a market. You know, like stay in app, find the app that's most applicable to this particular avatar audience. Don't try to go omni-channel. Don't try to go full funnel. Find the MVP, the minimal viable product, and then stay in app. I think that's absolutely freaking brilliant. It's Kasim with the Daily Google News. And I'm excited today. I'm excited to have an oldie but a goodie. And then my new best friend, I've got Tom Breeze, world authority on YouTube, wicked smart guy, beautiful hair, and Depesh Mandalia. How did I do?
Perfect.
We did it. And Depesh, you're like nerd famous in the Facebook world.
I think like I made it to the Z list, so now it's just like climbing up.
Just going up. Yeah, I think I'm on the Z list too. Yeah, except we don't have Z, so I'm on the Z list. It doesn't sound as good.
True.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to chat with you. You said before we started recording, you're like, oh, this is the holy trinity of traffic, because we have Google, YouTube, and Facebook. And then we're also on this really weird precipice of, I don't know what's going to happen with anything. I don't know what's going to happen with traffic. I don't know what's going to happen with the economy. I don't know what's going to happen with regulation, which I think y'all have to deal with way more than we do. So I'd love to maybe, if we can, open the Komodo a little bit. You know, we're all, forgive me for flattering myself, but high-level agency owners. And the thing that I think my listeners would be most interested in is, what are the problems you're seeing? Like the great big, don't want to talk about, kind of scary, like I wish I could just hide my head in the sand problems. And then what are the opportunities you're seeing too? So we're gonna get hot and cold here. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
That's awesome. Depesh, you're the guest. Since Tom's been here before, he loses.
Old hat.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna ask you to go first if you don't mind. I don't want to put you on the spot, but 2 questions. What are the big problems? What are the big opportunities?
So I think the big obvious problem is attribution. Like I know it impacts different platforms in different way. I just spoke to a candidate for a new role we're hiring for, and I asked this, like, what you doing for your reporting, how you communicating to your clients. She's freelancing, and it's the same thing everywhere. It's clients are concerned because here's the funny thing: they want to track their dollar spend in more detail than ever before, but they don't actually realize that yes, Apple's made a change to the whole industry in the last year or so, but tracking hasn't ever really been accurate. And I think there's been this thing with clients that they feel like, yeah, but before Apple was there, we could track everything. No, you couldn't. We just kind of did okay with what we had. It's just a little bit worse now. So I think that's the biggest problem we're finding with clients, and the kind of micro analysis and wanting to look at detail of numbers in a bit more detail, and trying to get them to understand, look, yes, things have changed, but it's not the end of media buying. It's not the end of running the holy trinity of traffic and merging YouTube with Google and Facebook. It's just we have to do things differently. And we, for example, are using different maybe traffic strategies to maybe what we would have done before. So I just sent out an email to my list talking about using Facebook ads for low ticket offers, get them into email, and then sell for whatever you want for as long as you want, because lead gen on Facebook is infinitely easier than things like e-commerce because of the tracking and the steps and things like that. So I'm getting people to understand you have to adapt your media buying to where things are. So that's the kind of biggest challenge we're seeing right now. Now, we're talking about agency, we're all agency owners. One of the pivots I've made based on what I'm seeing from clients is, rather than 2-3 years ago we were exclusively running ads for clients, now majority of the agency work is training in-house teams, supporting through consulting and coaching, and getting them to work on their in-house processes, hiring, building teams, etc. Because at least that's what we're seeing more and more, that there's this kind of stigma with agencies. I can't trust them. There's too much noise in the Facebook space in particular. You know, we'll run your ads for free. Don't pay us until we get results and stuff like that. We've lost pitches to smaller agencies like that because they're like, yeah, but you know, they'll run it for free and we only pay if we get profit. But then they'll come back a few months later, look, it didn't work out. Can we work with you and things like that? So I think we're finding more and more the dirty competition is causing problem on that side. And then the big opportunity is in working with these businesses as almost like an extension of their marketing. So we can bring in the strategy, we can bring in all the expertise of working across multiple ad accounts and things like that. We just don't do the media buying. We work with their media buying team, and that's been profitable for us because honestly, I think it's a blue ocean for Facebook ads agencies. And actually, we get higher retention with our clients and we charge more and our profits are higher. So from our point of view, it's been great.
Dude, you said so much there that I want to unpack. I took notes. I'm starting from the top. Actually, before I do that, Tom, you have input.
Talking about what Depesh just said, or do you want me to add more? There's not add more to
what
the
Depesh said because I want to pick it apart and I want to be careful of too many rabbit holes, too many open loops.
Yeah, totally understood. Yeah, this is really interesting. Like, from an attribution standpoint, Depesh, like when you're working on that, what is it specifically the clients want to know? Is it like almost how to track the lifetime customer value or AOV back to an original sale, or is it day zero activity? What tends to be the biggest conversation piece around that with clients?
It's more the day zero. So we work a lot with direct response, e-commerce and things like that. So they want to know, even if Facebook isn't reporting the numbers, why do we feel confident that based on our reporting that the ads platform says this, but your overall attribution model says that? How do we trust you? And that's probably the bigger challenge.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Interesting.
Are either of you using attribution tools, third-party attribution tools that you would advocate for?
Well, me personally, I've tested 4 or 5. I'm a big fan of Wicked Reports. Now, Wicked Reports is a technically driven platform that on a user interface front isn't so strong. So I think a lot of people look at that and they think it's really difficult. And honestly, we almost gave up on it as well. But for us, that's been invaluable, especially because for my own offers, I do a lot of lead capturing into email. I can see the attribution months and months from the past and see the actual impact of what we've done. Things you can't see anywhere on ad platforms. You know, even at the best of days for Facebook, you had 28-day attribution. But Wicked Reports has been the one tool that's been able to bring in organic and paid marketing and just tell us the stories that need to be told on what's working.
How about you, Tom? Attribution software that you like?
As a like performance ad agency, we're normally pulled in just to run traffic to a particular offer and spend our own money, and then clients pay us out on an agreed figure. So we tend to just blend in with whatever attribution model they have at that moment in time. But most of our stuff is like day zero and actually not too challenging from a attribution standpoint, because we are just focusing on like, can we make a sale on day zero? And I found, don't know about you, Kasim, but like I found very much that there's not a tracking issue there on a day zero purchase. I find it quite easy to see very high levels of accuracy. So we kind of get paid out on that, and then the client will then calculate lifetime customer value and average order value off the back of that. So it's more of like we're focusing on CPAs and not so much on target ROAS type campaigns. So yeah,
attribution for us is the biggest problem we face too. I've said I think attribution. I think it's $1 trillion problem. I think and I'm not being hyperbolic. I really mean that. There are hundreds of billions of dollars being spent in ad networks that are unaccounted for and misattributed, and we're operating off of a 500 touch point paradigm. And somebody who cracks the attribution code is going to have such a leg up. It's going to be insane. But as of yet, it's all just like, we're blinded between where we are now and the target 100 yards away. And then the attribution models are like getting us a foot or two closer. Like there's not a huge movement yet. It leads me to something else that I really like that you said, Depesh. You said, this is brilliant. We're going to run lead gen on Facebook, capture their email, and then you're going to market via email. And it's brilliant in its simplicity, but it's also like, duh, of course that's what we're doing. Because so many advertisers, so many businesses, we got spoiled. Facebook used to sell shit.
Exactly.
With ease. Google used to, you know what I mean? Like it used to be like, And what's funny is if you go all the way back to the beginning of the digitally empowered media buy, it was list building. 150%. And then we were able to move the fulcrum point, move the fulcrum all the way up until, oh, I don't have to build a list. I can just catalyze purchases. But now that we've lost some of that, it's become more incestuous. It's become harder, more expensive. You're going back to basics, saying, hey, don't expect so much out of the media buy, which I love because you're a media buyer. So anytime I hear a traffic guy say, don't expect so much out of the traffic, that's a really integrous statement. And it's a dangerous statement to make. But I really resonate with the truth there, and you're being honest about what's possible and what's not, because Facebook's still massively powerful. It's stupid for us to believe otherwise. So talk to me a little bit about that. Like, how is it that you're managing those conversations? People come to you and like, oh, I want to sell on Facebook, and you're saying, no, we're going to earn on Facebook, earn the email, and then we're going to sell on these other channels. And then follow-up question to that is, do you help manage that process, or do you refer them to a resource?
So we help manage that process. So what I would say on that is, so most of our clients are e-commerce. E-commerce has always been difficult on Facebook because Facebook needs a lot of data to be stable. So you need a lot of sales. If you're going after sales, you need a lot of video views if you're going after video view audiences. So the problem with the purchase, and just for people that maybe don't understand Facebook as much, you have multiple steps that Facebook can track. So someone's landed on a landing page, they've added to cart, they've started the checkout process, they've got to the payment page, and then they've purchased. Those 5 or 6 steps, Facebook's losing data every step of the way. So at the best of times, if you go to 2018, 2019, you were able to get a lot of conversions directly from Facebook. Facebook could track it, not 100% accurately, but fairly well. So therefore, you could stabilize the algorithm. At that stage, Facebook gets really, really good at knowing who your prospect is, who you want to sell to, and then you can drive sales up very quickly. So scaling on Facebook was always really easy. Now Facebook can't match that data up accurately because of the iOS 14 problem, and because now they're using data modeling that can take up to 72 hours after the purchase to hit Ads Manager and also the algorithm. That causes problems. So back in the day, if I was doing direct response, I could look at my daily results, make tweaks, and see what happens within hours. Now I'm telling people you have to actually wait 2-3 days after a change because Facebook itself doesn't have the data, especially if you're going after a longer funnel. So when you switch that around and say, right, how can I maximize the data but still get value for me as an advertiser? That's where lead gen comes in. And the other thing we're pushing people towards is a pixel-less solution to advertising, which is you can run Facebook ads for video views, which Facebook can still 100% remarket to that are on the platform. You can do lead generation within the Facebook app that doesn't touch a pixel. And when you combine all these elements, there's 5 or 6 other methods for Facebook. You don't need pixel tracking. And when you don't need pixel tracking, iOS 14 isn't an issue. So you're getting accurate data. You're able to stabilize that with high conversions. And like I said, push that into an email campaign, and then you can do all kinds of segmentations and analysis on the type of people we've got, and you can sell to them far easier than I think you can right now on Facebook.
I love the pixel-less. We're moving towards, how did you phrase that? We're moving towards a pixel-less.
I can't remember what I said now.
Campaign type. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So essentially, I'm not saying, switch off your pixel, take it off the website. But the thing is, you can bypass your website. I think there's so many people that just have a basic kind of view of, you need to run an ad to a website and it needs to have tracking, you need to remarket. But with Facebook in particular, and I know with YouTube, for example, you can remarket within YouTube and things like that. You literally don't need to worry about iOS 14 until Apple come out with a new idea to kind of stifle that. But for now,
they will. Yeah. Yeah, no, you can run entirely self-contained. And I like what you said about adapt your media buying to where things are. That's a good take-home message for me. If you're listening to this, that's a writer downer. That's because, we get really romantic about the playbooks that we use to score. Well, it's not about the playbook, it's about scoring. And people beat playbooks well past to death. So that's well stated. Tom Breeze, I've monopolized the conversation so far. I want to turn it over to you to maybe respond to what Depesh said, and then I want you to answer the same questions Depesh answered earlier.
Well, I think they flow quite seamlessly together. I believe, maybe they will, maybe they won't. One thing I think that the analogy I tend to use with my team as well is to say, and I try and use nature a lot for kind of like inspiration for how to think about these things. So I look at like YouTube or any ad platform like a tree, right? In a forest or in a jungle somewhere. And it's like that tree is growing and building in some like sort of ecosystem. So as it grows, it's kind of like trying to find its own light and all sort of stuff. But eventually what it ends up doing is housing loads of birds and loads of wildlife and everything else that kind of attaches to that tree. So it builds its own environment, so to speak. And it's like we're the woodpecker coming in and being like, we're going to build a home here and we're going to just like peck away and make a little hole to begin with and try and sort out what's going on. But we're so at the whim of what happens to that tree. If that falls down next week, we're like, oh, okay, well, we did really well, but the actual tree's fallen down. We're screwed now. And it's just a complete appreciation of the actual environment you're building a home in, right? And it's working out how to play with that platform really well. And I think then it kind of opens up strategy that actually helps you in the long run. So I think that what you mentioned about trying to work out, if someone could figure out this attribution issue, then they're going to be in a brilliant position. I just feel like that's just the nature of where we're headed, is that no one's going to figure it out. There isn't this multiple touch point. No one's going to be able to make it all play nice together, accurately enough for anyone to feel comfortable with it, or even the machine to learn from it as well, because there's too many different platforms trying to talk to each other. That's my kind of gut feel. And so my view is like, well, let's lean into this position and lean into the fact that we're not going to be able to track everything, because then it just changes the way you approach things. And that's kind of probably where I'm leading with like the future of ad buying. Like one thing that we're amazed that no one really gets with YouTube is that, and I think this is different to Facebook. So Depesh, I'd love to hear your opinion, but like most people approach YouTube, and they have done for years, to be like, that's copywriter's mindset. Like, I want to create an ad to get as many people as possible to watch this video and then click and go to my website. And that, by all accounts, is like a kind of a flawless approach, or it can't be argued against by marketers. You're saying, yeah, that's kind of the goal of the ad, is to get to sell the click and all this sort of stuff. And I just don't agree from YouTube standpoint, because, and this is the question I have for you, Depesh, like if you run an ad with a ridiculously good click-through rate and a good landing page experience, what tends to happen to the CPMs of Facebook? Does it tend to just stay the same, go down, go up? What happens if you run a really high click-through rate and also a really high conversion rate or a good experience on the landing page?
So Facebook, I think, borrowed from Google. So they look at both click-through rate and relevance score. So part of it is, how is your click-through rate, but then what happens post-click? So if your click-through rate is high, but conversion is low, your CPM won't change. It could actually go up. But if your CTR is up and your conversion's good, then your CPM will drop, because the way Facebook sees it is, what's the ultimate user value? There's an algorithm for that, but the output is, what's the user's value? Because if you're, as an advertiser, giving good user value, that user is going to stick to Facebook and say, hey, Facebook gave me a good experience. If you're not converting, but you're driving clickbait, then that's not a great experience. And one of the things, so one of the old strategies that people used to recommend for Facebook was delay the load of the pixel, so you only got high quality traffic through to your site. What they didn't realize was Facebook used that as a beacon. Now, the more you delay it, Facebook says that's a slow loading page.
Fascinating.
As much as I tell people don't do that because this is the reason, until they implemented it and saw their CPMs go up, they didn't understand. So you need to understand the way the whole thing's stitching together as well.
Dude, I have outsmarted myself so many times thinking that I could like game the algorithm, only to figure out like, oh no, there's a Stanford grad engineer that actually thought about this before I did, and he or she's just way smarter, and I should just follow the rules.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is with YouTube, what we notice is that as a platform, YouTube is a ecosystem in itself, right? So they want people to have the best experience on YouTube, and you're there for content, right? You're there for good experience, and YouTube, I think, despise long videos, and they put like penalties on videos that are very long now, apparently. And also the second thing is that every ad account that we've got is a really neat correlation between click-through rate and CPMs in the way that you wouldn't expect. So as click-through rate goes up, CPM goes up. It's almost like you're paying for the click, like the performance of the ad, as click-through rate goes up, the cost goes up.
Because they don't want the traffic to leave.
Precisely. That makes complete sense, right?
What is long, Tom? You said it.
I think 3 minutes is getting penalized now.
So that's you're saying ads, not organic videos.
Yeah, ads. Yeah.
Okay. Anything over 3 minutes keeps penalized, and the higher your CTR, the more you'll pay. So there's an incentive to keep them in app.
Exactly. Yeah. YouTube so I think that there's two things there. So the length of the video, if you run an ad and people kind of chew up watch time, then Google can't serve them more ads. And Google no likey. They want to get more ads in front of people so they can charge more to the advertiser. So if you're going to do that, they say, well, your CPM's going up. If you're going to chew up bandwidth or chew up time from a user. But likewise, if you click away from the platform, then it's not like Google is designed for that, or Facebook, where the experience is very much like a social engagement. Maybe it's not so much like Facebook, but definitely YouTube is like, we want to keep you on this very sticky platform and just keep you here. So if an advertiser gets you off this platform, they're going to pay for it. And what we've been doing for a long time, but no one really gets this point, is that like our ads aren't written by like ridiculously good copywriters. We have good copywriters in house, but they're designed to make sure only quality clicks go through. So our CTRs are actually pretty low most of the time, but by design, because what we want to do is make sure we educate the customer about like, here's what this offer is all about. Like almost like telling them like, by the way, the price point is this, and you're going to be going through to our website that looks like this, and this is the experience you're going to have as soon as you click. So that hardly anyone, only buyers are left. You've disqualified most people from the ad, keeping that CTR really low, but the website conversion rate still stays very, very high. But we end up keeping really low CPMs. So the cost of advertising actually makes sense.
I want to meditate on this for a minute, because it's so smart, Tom. This is a whole paradigm shift in marketing. What people are doing is they're catalyzing a click to get somebody to a funnel, and the funnel explains the who, what, when, where, how, case study, testimonial, process, unique selling product, blah blah, all the bullshit. You're putting the funnel in app to capitalize on the excess that you'd receive, the discount that you'd receive. I imagine too, to extrapolate mildly, but the trust that's given when you're in app versus on a funnel, because the context is so important. If I'm inside of Facebook, psychologically speaking, I actually trust what's being delivered to me more, in as much as I trust Facebook, more than if I'm on your website or your funnel, because now there's a change of context. And so you're taking, it's not a change at all, other than where the jumping off point is. So you take the entirety of the funnel, put as much of it in app as you can, and you could do this in Facebook too, or Instagram, but you're doing it in YouTube. Keep them in YouTube, because with YouTube sequences and automated bid adjustments and Google understands your goals, Google could actually kind of figure that out for you too. And then waiting and saving the click until, in funnel speak, it would be until they're ready to select the CTA. And I didn't say anything that you didn't say. I just said it dumber, but I wanted to say it for the people that are watching, because that, man, I don't think, is this Tom Breeze original? Like, did you invent this? Because this is genius.
We're the first to know of this approach. Like it's not something we've stumbled across. We uncovered it years ago, and we're like, let's just create content videos. Let's like as ads, and so Depesh, we've done videos together, and it's been very much like content heavy on the video. And most people are like, well, this isn't great copy. This is not the best. Like, I could get more clicks. And you're like, sure you can, but you're going to pay for it.
You don't want more clicks. You actually want less clicks, but when they do click, they're ready to buy because they've been warmed up. So you're putting the funnel in the ads. Yeah,
well, we kind of, it's so obvious when you think of what YouTube wants,
right?
And that's why I'm saying, like, we're building a house in a tree that someone else is growing, right? And so, like, you may have got away with low CPMs in the past because YouTube was growing as a tree, and it was like just finding any light, like, let's try and get as many advertisers as we can over here. Let's just collect their dollars and we can grow this thing as we go. So when I got first started, it was like pretty much run anything and it works. But over time, YouTube have wised up. They know the deal. Same with what you're talking about, Depesh, earlier with Facebook. Like, you're creating most of that experience on the actual platform itself. And so that's kind of what they all want to happen. This goes right into Depesh's
The Pixelless campain.
Precisely.
So we're kind of saying similar things in different ways. There's a way to do it inside of Facebook. There's a way to do it inside of YouTube. And I'm just the slow bus, the tube light catching up at the end.
You don't give yourself enough credit. You're like,
I think
you're way ahead of me on this.
like,
I was like, yeah, that as well.
I think the interesting thing is we're covering off 3 platforms here, but only 2 of them actually have an app. So like there's a YouTube app, there's a Facebook app.
Yeah.
Ads is not an app.
Google's a Leviathan. And I get to hide behind that often, but I also have to contend with it because I'm held accountable to it. Everybody thinks Google is search. And I'm like, the last thing it is search. Search is 4 ads. You search for something that's 4 ads. There's no way we're banking on that. You know what I mean? So the Google Display Network, I think, is the thing most people don't consider. It reaches 90% of all internet users on the planet, 65% of whom reach on a daily basis. And then you have Gmail sponsored promotions and Discover. Google's a whole ecosystem. But the ecosystem is less important than the intelligence Google captures. Specifically, I think from Google Analytics, Google knows, and I have this is my keynote. I do this slide where I talk about everything that Google knows. And it's like, who's cheating on their spouse, who's in Narcotics Anonymous, what your sexual orientation is, all these. And 7 years ago, they told a woman she was pregnant before she knew she was pregnant based solely off of her search and communication patterns. So Google is an outbound marketing mechanism is irrelevant when you consider what Google knows. Because when I know, oh, Tom lost weight, he was invited to a wedding recently, he's a Packers fan, and this is where he exists socioeconomically. Now, all of a sudden, you put all that together, it's like, oh, these are the shoes I'm going to sell Tom. It doesn't even have to be good copy, right? So like Google, YouTube standalone or Facebook, Instagram, the way to think about them is the frame within which you put the message. The way to think about Google is it's the world's repository for information distilled into intent. And if you can give Google the intent and the media to connect with that, then it will do those things for you, which is absolutely freaking terrifying. But you're at their mercy because Google, think about the auction. They're the only auctioneer in the world that knows everybody participating in the auction, exactly what they're willing to pay and what they make. So Google games this system all the freaking time. It's a catastrophe. And the thing that you guys are talking about right now, this pixelless, what are we going to call it, Depesh? Name it for me. The pixelless paradigm.
That sounds good.
All right. So the pixelless space not good enough. Yours was better. I'm going to go back and watch the recording, listen to what you're saying. So but it's like this in-app, staying in-app, it actually takes the power away from them. It takes the power away from them because as soon as it turns into a black box, we have to trust the AI. But if you can stay in-app, they have to give you what's happening in-app. And so both in Facebook and in YouTube with the pixelless campaign type, or what Tom is talking about, putting the funnel inside of YouTube, you're empowering yourself to see the entire experience. And in so doing, you're actually keeping the capability optimized. And y'all, I don't know how long you guys have been doing this, but I've been exposed to this content for about 20 minutes. And it's blowing my mind right now. Like this entire paradigm, I think is earth-shatteringly staggering, especially for agencies. Because staying in app allows us so much more visibility and control and autonomy. And if that's something you go sell your customer with a very distinct end result, right? We're not going to go all the way full funnel. We can't, but it's list building or it's, whatever, audience building. I think that this is genius. And I also think it's really funny that both of you are actually kind of doing it independent of each other. And I don't know that you knew that. And maybe that's how natural it is. And again, I'm the dummy, but how serendipitous is this? I'll stop being so dramatic. This is not a glitch. I'm interrupting the video you're watching because I need to remind you that I'm always looking for people to join our team. So if you're passionate about Google Ads and you want to work with the best Google Ads agency on the planet, please go to solate.com/apply. Speaking of working with the best Google Ads agency on the planet, if you're having trouble with Google Ads and you want professional help, that's what we do. You can go to solate.com, that's SOL8.com, to apply for your free, no obligation action plan. And if I've given you any level of value at all, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. That's how we juice the YouTube algorithm so they actually know that I know what I'm talking about. If you have questions, comments, concerns, or confessions, hit me below in the comments. And now, back to your regularly scheduled program.
Well, we're just both British. That's the thing. So
I thought the Brits were always the villains in the film. Not the villains.
Can't let the cat out of the bag here. Don't let the Americans onto it. Man, I really love the implications here too. It's where I would do a soft launch. It's where I'd go to prove a market, like stay in app, find the app that's most applicable to this particular avatar audience. Don't try to go omni-channel. Don't try to go full funnel. Find the MVP, the minimal viable product, and then stay in app. I think that's absolutely freaking brilliant.
And the crazy thing for us with Facebook right now, so CPM is a big problem. The using interest targeting, using in-app and no pixels, and we're undercutting CPMs. Like I'm selling
you'd have to be, of
products,
course.
I'm doing interest targeting. I'm getting $6, $10, $15 CPMs, which is crazy for the info space, but I'm getting that for my leads, because all I'm asking Facebook for is keep them in the app and just give me an email. And that's it.
And in-app, you're right. You have in-app conversion points. You have Facebook's forums. You have chat, which I think is massively underutilized. Messenger. And the chat rules, by the way, are so intrusive. Like you can chat, and stop me on this, Depesh, because I'm quoting somebody else. My buddy Perry Belcher called me and he's like, you wouldn't believe what we can do. And apparently you can chat anybody that's ever chatted your business. You can catalyze an open chat to them in perpetuity forever. Is that true? Did I just make that up?
Through sponsored ads, yeah.
That's crazy. That's unreal. So if you can just get the chat to pop one time, then I can now talk to you as many times as I want to for a couple of pennies.
Yeah. So back in the day, you could do it organically as well. Then they create this 24-hour rule. So organically, if someone's contacted you, then within 24 hours, you can reply back and send them stuff. Outside of that 24 hours, then you have to go to sponsored messages. But like when you hear that ding from Messenger, you don't know who it is. And now it's an ad and it's like, oh, there's a familiar face. Like one of us pops up, you're going to read it. And then you realize, oh, it's an ad. But if it's useful, if there's value, you're going to click it. You're going to read it.
Yeah, but that stays in app to the point that you've been making. So they're actually really robust in-app conversion points that you can use. You're not flying blind. And now you can result.
And now you can add WhatsApp to that and Instagram direct message as well. So that's pretty cool.
That's huge. Yeah, WhatsApp is an unbelievably untapped resource. And the fact that you can trigger WhatsApp messages, I don't know why I haven't played with that more. And maybe there are marketers out there that are doing it, but I don't hear enough about it given how prolific WhatsApp is.
Yeah, I think we're all busy with Messenger. That's all it is.
Yeah, really. But I mean, to the point you just made, Messenger has a 98% open rate or something, right? You don't ignore
it's crazy
Facebook messages. Tom Breeze, what are the conversion events inside of YouTube that are in-app? Obviously, YouTube has forums, which by the way have been hit or miss for us. But you're going a lot for it's other videos, right? It's just watch the next video. It's retention.
Yeah, we there's so many different ways of running on YouTube if you're just aware of what audiences you can build inside the app. So most of the time people will be like, oh, well, YouTube remarketing doesn't really work because they run a direct response ad that you've got 99% of people clicking off that ad being like, skip ad, don't want that person in my life. And you're like, well, all those people that said no to me didn't say yes to me next time around, so it can't work. You're like, okay, cool. Right. Let's take a different approach to this. So a lot of the time we'll kind of build audiences based on value. So we'll kind of say, right, anyone who's watched certain types of content in a YouTube organic video would obviously be a pretty good audience for you for remarketing. But you can build it in such a way where, I mean, I've got a video on YouTube Ad Masterclass, and I purposely built it so it was like 3 videos long. And then we run the first video as an ad, but the video like promotes the first video you see as an ad, promotes the second video, and then the second video then promotes the third video. So you get all 3. They're kind of standalone pieces of content, but they can promote all 3. But then you can imagine like the remarketing list of people that watch video 2 is like ridiculously potent. Like they've like watched 15 minutes of your first video, they've liked you enough to go through to the second video. And if you can get that at scale, then yeah, you can start building more of an ecosystem there. But yeah, any of our clients that have large channels, I can't put a direct correlation to it to say because of this, like this causation, this is the result. But like definitely we've seen that everyone who has like a really solid YouTube presence tends to perform really well on YouTube as well. Lots you can do, but I think that the piece that I wanted to go back to was like, especially with all these new things that come out, like us as performance marketers, we're like dive in immediately and be like, you know what I could do with that? I could exploit that straight away, and I can go deeper with that. And I was at an event where Rory Sutherland was there speaking, and he was talking about like performance marketing can take you so far, but as a brand, will only take you a little part of the way. Like there's so much more opportunity out there. So normally what we'll find is like, okay, cool, here's an audience, or here's a way of marketing where I can dive down and exploit that one audience. But there's no exploration going on any longer. There's no kind of like serendipitous, I didn't realize that audience would convert. I could actually make a message for those people. And now you've opened up more, and you've opened up yourself to more opportunity, which is kind of where I see YouTube being a big play. Obviously, I'm skewed hugely to look purely at YouTube as a platform, but I do look at it being like, oh, wow, like the opportunities that come out of a YouTube following and a YouTube, well, you must know this, as well, Kasim, because you must like see your channel grow and people kind of love your YouTube content and things. And I presume there's been loads of opportunities off the back of that as a result of that.
Dude, just to put that in context, perpetual traffic is 300,000 downloads a month. It's like 10 Madison Square Gardens. It's the biggest platform I've ever been. It's daunting how popular it is. And I hear people talk about it. I know they're listening. My YouTube channel has 12,000 subscribers. I probably get not, the quantity discussion is different, but quality, I get 10x out of YouTube than I do PT. And I think that's a paradigm shift. There's a podcast listener is different than a YouTube watcher because they're active. So they're closer to the bottom of the funnel. But regardless, YouTube has been the most powerful thing I've ever done for my business. I'm not shitting on Facebook, by the way, Depesh. I'm so sorry. I just haven't done really good at Facebook.
I'm a fan of YouTube as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And that's why we kind of lean into the idea like, okay, cool, we can't track. So be it. Like if we hold on to that thread and be like, oh, maybe attribution might get better in the future. Like we just gear up for funnels that will give us data that's really, really useful. So
well, and putting the funnel in that means you can track what you just said, that 3-series video that you have, you can track that from video one to video two. Yeah, you can track it. The YouTube, annoyingly, the Google Ads platform where you run your ads from for YouTube doesn't give you really clean data on the YouTube side, which is ironic. Like, isn't it? Yeah, but what I mean is cash in, cash out. You can tell each of these pillars where people went, what you put in, and more or less what you made, roughly, generally speaking, more than if you were doing omni-channel, let's say. And I'm not trying to be combative and tell you how to run your business because you know more about it than I do. But I guess I'm advocating for this paradigm that you put forth and that Depesh put forth too, which is I love putting the funnel in app, and I love the pixel list like stay in app. That's absolutely freaking brilliant.
I think we keep it a little simpler than how I'm imagining you're thinking of it. I might be wrong though. Like we still do add to offer. It's just the ad is not very salesy, and it's like, hey, let's disqualify everybody, but not in the way that like, hey, if you're not these people, sod off. It's not saying that. It's more like saying, all right, look, I've got, say if I was going to do a promotion for myself, for example, I might say something like, hey, I've got a YouTube ads masterclass that I think you're gonna absolutely love. I do give you a lot of information and there's a sale, $47 at the end of it, but here's why it's worth you watching it. And then I might kind of give some explanation, build up my credibility, show some testimonials and give them a clear click of like, this video is 45 minutes long. You're going to love it. And you probably will buy the program afterwards. Go click now. And I know that click-through rate will probably be horribly low, but I know that anyone does click is going to be loving it.
Worth it. And
then when they get to the page, then I normally ungate it. So I just say, just give them the content. Don't ask them. Because there's two numbers in direct response advertising that always shock me. One is how low click-through rates really are. Like you think like I've targeted my audience perfectly and now 1% of them want to click through to my free offer that I'm promoting. And like, God, if you put 100 people in front of me and I can only get one person to just click a button, I'll be like, something's going wrong here. So that's one that always surprises me. And then the other one that surprises me as well is like the number of people that take upsells, the percentage of people take upsells off the first offer. So I'm like, right, let's lean into that. Let's take a 45-minute educational style VSL type approach, offer something at the back of that for about like anything, well, it depends on what niche you're in, but like around about $100, $50 to $100 with an upsell off the back of it. And normally that works really well from YouTube. Just as an ecosystem to play with when you're running YouTube ads. It's like, you don't need to be really good at copy. You just need to be good at what you talk about, clear, communicate well, and you've got kind of a whole thing in front of you, and you're likely to get very good results without having to be some genius or copy and conversion and CRO and all the rest of it. Just keep it pretty simple, provide value. And funny enough, that's what people like on YouTube. And isn't it just leaning into human behavior? Do you know what I mean? It's such a, I don't know, it seems obvious to me, but people try and get crazy clever ads and it hurts them in the long run.
Do y'all follow Alex Hormozy?
I love Alex. Yeah.
Yeah. He might be the smartest marketer alive at the moment. And his name can't not come up in a conversation like this just because he's just nailed it. But the thing that Alex, his obsession with offer, it pisses me off that he got there before I did, to be honest with you, because it's such a it's not traffic, it's offer. Traffic is so ancillary. You know what I mean? It's the door on the building. And we're talking about, architecture and building and grading and land and whatever. And all I am is the door. All we are collectively is the door. And I think you just nailed it, Tom, where you're like, it's as long as you're reasonably good at what you do, and it's sad that we have to say that, as long as the offer is good, traffic kind of doesn't matter. You know, it can be C minus, D plus, and it sort of just doesn't matter because the offer is good and you deliver on the back end.
Yeah.
Depesh, I want to go back to something you said. The dirty competition. Here's what I see. I think that there is a recession coming, and there's a lot of dead wood that's going to be burned off, but dead wood doesn't just fall by the wayside and cause no problems, right? So I think what we're going to see is a lot of these little agencies that are, you know, inefficient or inexperienced, they're going to do exactly what you said earlier, which is clutch at life. And that whole we run your ads for free thing, we're seeing a little bit of that too. I'm seeing some of my clients getting outbound outreach from folks saying, we'll run for nothing. And then there's some performance-based kicker on the back end, or only pay after 90 days or whatever. And my comment to them has always been, there's nothing more expensive than a cheap resource. But I'm curious how y'all are protecting yourself. And if there is a way to protect yourself. Half of my audience are agency owners. What are you doing to batten down your hatches? Because as the death rattle ensues, we're just going to see a lot of, you know, kind of that playing below the belt. And I don't always, sometimes with clients, I'm like, all right, God bless you. I'll see you in 90 days when you come back. And they've broken everything that you're doing. But I'm curious if you have a better narrative than that.
I think for us, we've expanded our offers. So like I said, 3-4 years ago, it was just ads management. Now we do a full audit and a 3-month plan. We do the ads management, we do consulting, coaching, training, all that kind of stuff. Because what we've realized is there is no one type of client in terms of life stage. There are people that are just starting their e-commerce store and they want to know how to get started. There's people that are scaling to 100K a month, 500K a month, and they've hit a plateau, and we can help all of them, but at different levels. And for us, there's different values there as well. And what I find is the ones that are penny pinching to find the cheapest agency, they're not really our best prospect anyway. So we know when that conversation goes down that way. Now, I've been in the agency game since 2017. So we have a good reputation, especially with people that know me and know the agency, and they know what we found over time. They know what our agency are capable of, and therefore, if we're going to charge them a fee that's maybe double what the other agencies charging, that comes with the results we've created. So that for us gives us a bit of leeway and a bit of comfort. I also train up agency owners, and a lot of these agency owners are doing 10K, 20K a month. They don't really have big case studies or a brand or anything like that. And what I'm saying to them is get a foot in the door offer out, show them your expertise, whether it's free or it's $100 or a $500 thing, give them the plan of exactly what you're going to do for them. You know, even if they take that away and say, oh, thanks, I'm going to take this and run it myself. Most of them won't, but they'll be blown away by the fact that you haven't just told them you know what you're going to do. Go into their ad account, their funnel, critique it. I use the something called the advertising core 4. There's only 4 things we care and look at: their products or their service, their audience that they're targeting, the offer, and the funnel. Without even looking at anything, if I look at those 4 things, I can know whether the business is A, ready for Facebook ads, and B, ready for scaling. Because if you're, and you know, you mentioned offer, if your offer and funnel is off, it doesn't matter what else you're doing, you're not scaling on Facebook.
Right.
Like, you have to get those things nailed. If your offer is really good, but your funnel is poor, you'll fumble your way through, but you're going to hit those high CPMs and things like that. So we already know that from the off. So when a client comes into us, we do that analysis. It takes us about 20 minutes. We give back an analysis check sheet. Like when you take your car into a garage and they give you like a 92-point safety checklist or something like that. We have a checklist, so we can give that back to the client and say, these are the red items you have to fix. You don't fix these things, it doesn't matter which agency you go to, you're going to suffer. So we're there as consultants. You want to take up our offer, that's fine. If you don't, go to the next person, but give them this plan. Go for your half price agency offer. So we kind of build that trust and authority in what we do. And we try to train agency owners to take that route. Be the expert, but be the guide, be the friend. Even if you don't get the business, guess what? If it doesn't work out, they'll come back to you as well. So we're just trying to get people to understand you're not going to close every single client. First of all, think about their life stage. Are they just starting? Are they growing? Are they scaling? And then think about how you can get your foot in the door to get your expertise into the head regardless of what conversations they're having. Because, you know, if you prove to them you can, you know, just quickly look at their business and give them the pointer, you're going to build the trust. And then it's the law of reciprocity, and they'll want to come back and give you some money or whatever it is as well. So that's the kind of way we're tackling it as well.
I love that, man. I really appreciate that paradigm too, that approach. It's just very integrous. You know, you take the high road and then let the chips fall. Tom Breeze, you've got something you've been working on. Am I allowed to talk about it, or is it still in the lab?
You can talk about it. Well, can I just add to what Depesh was
Yeah,
saying?
I wish you would. Sure. I'm a horrible interviewer, by the way. I don't know if y'all picked up on that. Like, I'm not good at, so you're going to have to, if you don't self-advocate here, you're just not going to get your bit in.
You are brilliant at this. You kind of like, I watch your videos and I'm just like, oh, you pull this all together so easily. Because I know it's John, isn't it, who's your big brain.
Brains.
Yeah, he's the big brain.
I truly do really get a kick out of talking about this stuff. So, you know, I get excited, and I think that resonates with folks. Maybe that's what I do well.
But I love it how he talks like 4,000 miles an hour. Then you're like, you still talk pretty quick as well. But I'm like listening to your videos. I'm like, this is like a fire hydrant of amazing content. And now there's no like, well, we'll talk about the tool in a minute, but like, yeah, it's people can go through your content and just go over and over and over, just like getting great content from you. But I mean, I to add to what Depesh was saying, and I think that we see this from a performance agency. So I know that this is not a plug for myself, but the way we run things is we spend the ad spend. So instead of always say we'll spend client money, we spend our own money, and then we only make money when the client's making money.
Yeah, which is crazy, by the way. Like that's I mean, you just strapped on a cape in my eyes. That you're putting your money where your mouth is. You've got some cojones there, man. That's huge.
Well, a lot of qualification, and now making sure that I can win. So the table stacked in my favor, and then I play easy bets basically. But the one of the things that we often look at and explore, and we've done like a bit of a rebrand more recently as well, is to kind of like try and pull on something we always talk about with ads. It's like to say there's an identity behind dealing with your brand. You know, like so it's like if you're an agency that want to keep your client, then I would try and identify what it is you do that's so special and build an identity around that. Build like give your clients status as a result of being your agency. You know, like so they feel like proud to wear your agency as a badge almost of honor, so to speak, to say this is who we get to work with. And sometimes like to incorporate that into a deeper level is to sometimes use your own language or use terminology. I know Ralph does have tier 11, so you kind of work through the tiers, and that's like a really clever strategy, I think, because you feel like, right, I'm on the ladder, like coming off this ladder is actually quite a big pain of disconnect potentially as well. But one thing that I think, and this might pull into, I was going to ask you, Depesh, about this as well. Like one thing that we often, because we have like a consultancy piece from time to time, we don't do a huge amount of it, but we kind of were toying with the idea of having like a from time to time like an off-ramp strategy to say, if you don't want to work with us any longer as an agency for any reason, like we're lucky because we're spending our own money, so we don't get it very often. But if there was that and people were like, oh, we want to go in-house or something, having like an off-ramp service, you know, to say, okay, cool, well, we'll help you train up your own internal team, we'll help you get that all into place. Do you do that, or is that something you just haven't explored? Or because that would for me would be like, oh, if you're an agency, you'd still trust you even on the off-ramping, and then be like, oh, you're now our consultant around that piece as well.
I mean, that's exactly why we did it, because when I started the agency, we got to this silly place where within 3 to 6 months we're scaling, we've gone from spending 20K a month to 100K a month, and because we're percent of ad spend, our costs have gone up for the agency, for the client. And we got to this silly phase where we'd run the agency account for 3 to 5 months, we'd lose the account because now they're paying us too much. And they're like, oh, well, for 10 or 15K a month, they could bring in 2-3 media buyers and do it ourselves. Yeah, of course you can. You can't. But that's the mentality. And then I figured out, okay, rather than fight that, what if we just went with the flow and said, all right, offboard us from a media buying point of view, but keep the strategy. Like, this is what I can bring. And it became like a fractional CMO type of thing with the added benefit of the whole agency, like the analytics, the insights, the creative, the media buying reports. We provided all of that. And it enabled brands to look at us differently from the point of we'd have that conversation from the start, which was, we'll run your ads for 3 to 6 months, but there's also an option where we can also help you hire, embed, train, and take media buying in-house. And that became so much more attractive. So that product itself as I mentioned earlier, that's a blue ocean. I think not just for Facebook ads agencies, but for everyone.
Oh, that's genius. Yeah, it's really clever to have that, because it's trust in the piece where they're like, oh, we're even considering it. It's like, well, there's always this service we have for you. And then you'll be like, right, well, I'm still want to follow everything and all the guidance you provide as well.
Because it's a pain, right? If they're, let's say they start paying us $7.5K a month, and in 5 months time, they're paying 35K a month. That's painful. It doesn't matter that they're making 5-10x more than they were 3-5 months ago. It's still a pain to say, I was paying this and now they're charging that. In reality, we're not really doing that much more work. So I can't say that the difference in
let's not tell people that, Depesh.
That's
irrelevant. Yeah.
The fact of the matter
You
is,
broke up there. I didn't hear that.
Yeah, but I mean, look, let's be honest. There's magnitudes of scale. When you start getting to the higher ad spends with Facebook, guess what? It becomes a lot more stable and predictable, believe it or not. So it's easier for us to predict what's going to happen.
Google's much harder as you spend more.
Oh yeah, definitely on the Google side. Yeah. But you know, that's the crazy thing. So if you're now spending, let's say 300-400K a month with us, the team is a bit more dedicated, because guess what? When things go wrong, the magnitudes of the wrong become bigger. But at the same time,
that's my point. When people are like, well, why do you make more? I'm like, because you get to call me, 2 a.m. on a Sunday. That's right. And yeah, and that's actually really worth something, because if I'm not charging, if you're spending $500,000 a month, I'm not charging you a fee for $500,000. You don't want a part-time firefighter there.
Well, that's like such a valuable piece. I think that's like a piece that falls into that identity. Like, oh no, when I'm at this level with you guys, then I have you on speed dial. Like,
right, exactly.
And that, I feel like, do I get that with other people? Probably not. Like, I don't trust it. And so I feel like there's these sorts of things that build into that identity and that status piece. It's like, cool, I know that I feel loved to someone and they've got my back, and I know that I can call them. And yeah, stuff will happen from time to time, but I know that they're like just in the end of the phone call if I need them. That's a huge piece, I feel like, that no one really taps into.
We've been on the receiving, hopefully they never watch this video. We've been on the receiving end of this in the worst way. We had a client that we love dearly. They were with us for a couple of years. They grew so big, they're like, you guys, we have to take this in-house. They hired their own media buyers, took it in-house. And then I don't remember the timeline, but it wasn't long. It was like 8 weeks later, something exploded. And they didn't call their media buyers, they called us. And I'm like, so wait a minute now, like you get what, and now they've been with us for years and we helped them out and we fixed it. But if I had what Depesh is talking about, then, at least I'd continue to be able to profit from that client. And then they could call me maybe with a little more integrity and, not with their tail tucked between their legs. But it was interesting to be on the receiving end of it. So I think it's a good question, Tom.
And asking for referrals, that's a great one as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Now
that you're gone, send your friends.
It's difficult for them to be like, I'm off now, I'm not going to use them anymore. And you tied them in psychologically. Yeah.
Tom, tell us about what you're building.
Yeah, man. Okay, cool. So we have been building in the background a piece of software that we're very proud of. So what it is that you can connect your YouTube account or YouTube channel to our tool, and we call it the X-ray. So what it does is it takes in all the data from your YouTube channel, X-rays it, as in terms of like finds all the important figures, and then allows you to finally get to grips with some analytical data that's useful from a content standpoint. So nothing to do with SEO or getting videos ranked or being suggested videos and that type of stuff. It's much more to do with like, what do your audience actually like? What themes of content seems to resonate with your customers, and how long are people sticking around on some videos versus other videos? And you can benchmark all your videos against each other for certain time periods, or look at the intros of your videos and the middle section of your videos and see if you've got retention drops anywhere, or see what your videos are doing from a subscriber standpoint. And then also we call these magic moments. If there's like a peak in retention at any point in your video, we analyze it and give you links to the highest peaks across the whole of your channel. And it allows you, well, you've seen it, haven't you? It allows you to then just see what content actually works and what people like and what people enjoy from you. And so it just guides you in, it's just so obvious about what next video what's the next video you need to create. Either redo great content you've already got, but maybe with a weak intro or something, or keep doing more of a certain topic because you didn't realize that your customers absolutely love that content. So yeah, man, we're kind of building out, and everyone seems to absolutely love it and get so much from it, which is cool. yeah, that's kind of something we're focusing on right now. And it still needs to be like polished up a little bit, but right now it's performing really well. And they were gearing up, like where it takes us is to say, right, if you can isolate like 3 or 4 videos from your channel that are just like the best performers, especially in terms of lead gen and things, then you just put a little bit of spend behind them in a specific way when you run your ads. And my word, like it's so exciting to see like these people that can create great content, have good good products, maybe not great offers, but still they're able to kill it. So they just like produce these great videos back in the past, and they just put a little bit of ad spend, and it just drives leads and sales every single day for them. And these are not big brands. These are kind of people that have a good YouTube following, but haven't really figured out the direct response bit just yet. So it's a great way of introducing those people into like the world of paid advertising to drive profit at scale. So far so good, man. Like it's working really well. And yeah, we'll put a link in the description maybe or something if people want to find out more.
Yeah, when is it ready?
Software builds. I would love to have said yesterday. I think realistically we're about a month away from being it to be self-serve. Like right now we can get added as a manager and do this. And so if people wanted it to be done and wanted to have like an X-ray of their channel, then yeah, we can do that. But in about a month's time, it's gonna be self-serve. So you can go in and do it for yourself and then kind of grab all the data and be guided on what to do next and see all the data. But yeah, we with your testimonial, we're kind of like, what you said was so clear. It was like you called it a decision engine, I think you called it.
Yeah.
And man, yeah, that's kind of exactly how we phrase it now. It just allows you to make better decisions when it comes to running a YouTube channel. So thanks for that. We'll come back to you for more copy ideas.
Yeah, I was going to say copywritten #trademark. Yeah, you can go follow Tom Breeze at viewability.co.uk. I'll put details in the description. You can follow my boy Depesh at smcommerce.com. Both of us or not both of us, all 3 of us are speaking at the Affiliate Meat Market in Berlin. That's October 26th through 27th. What are y'all talking about? You want to do a quick bit? Depesh, what's your talk on?
So I'm actually going to talk a bit about my journey through affiliate marketing and kind of how affiliates and merchants and brands could and should be using their affiliates a lot better, and kind of what role Facebook plays in all of that as well.
Very cool. Tom?
3 C's of YouTube ads. So going through like what offers work best, and what targeting works best, what creative works best. And so you can just know where to go with YouTube and what works, what doesn't work, and just make the path into YouTube advertising a lot more smooth and enjoyable and fun.
Very cool. I'm excited. I've never been to Germany before, so I'm going to do kind of a little tour of Berlin.
What's your talk on?
The future of traffic.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to make it all up. I don't really know what's going to happen in the future, but I'm going to do my.
Well, you will know the future because in October you'll be ahead of us. You'll know what's happening there and there. So why not?
That's right. If you're watching this, please go follow my friends. Make sure to check out Tom's software when it drops. Last words to you, gentlemen. Thank you for being on the show. Anything you want to leave our listeners with in closing and parting?
I guess for me, look, we're coming up to a critical point in media buying. Just go with the flow. I think, we mentioned, hacking algorithms and pixels and things like that. There's always concern. Is this platform going to last? Up until it stops serving you, I'm a big Facebook person, just adapt and move with where the platform's going, where privacy is going, and just try new things out. Don't get stuck in the past on kind of what works, because it won't always be the case.
Yeah, brilliantly stated. That's great.
And that was nice. Let's stay with that. That's good. I don't want to add anything extra.
That's awesome. Cool. I shoot a video every day. Like, comment, subscribe. You know how YouTube works, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.
Also,
what happens to Google Ads in a recession? First of all, I'm not saying a recession's coming because I have no idea. What I am saying is other people are telling me a recession's coming. And so I tend to follow the model that you want to run dual playbooks. So you want to prepare for the flood and you want to prepare for the drought at the same time.